And I also don't think there's like one type of leader. You know, some people think, oh, you got to be outgoing, you got to be out in front to be the leader. And I'll share, no, some of the greatest leaders are quiet leaders.
Dr. Matthew Arau, best-selling author. He's taught on 4 continents, founded Upbeat Global, trained CEOs on how to lead with joy, and still somehow finds time to be a high school band director.
When you inspire somebody or you encourage someone, that's truly an act of leadership. Some people put limits on themselves and they think, oh, I'm not a leader. But in my experience, I've been able to coach and develop skills in other people. Rather than focus on what is wrong, focus on what you want to create. And I think every day is an opportunity to create something special when we're intentional. Your level of confidence is equal to your level of competence. So if you want to raise your confidence, you need to raise your competence, and you can only do that through...
Hello, beautiful people. My name is TV Aguirre, host of the Becoming Better Ancestor Show. And today we have the one and only Dr. Matthew Arau. Arau. I hope I said that right. I'm sorry. A conductor, leadership coach, best-selling author, and the kind of person who makes the rest of us feel like we might be just being lazy. He's taught on 4 continents, founded Upbeat Global, trained CEOs on how to lead with joy, and still somehow finds time to be a high school band director. When I found that little detail out, I was blown away. Like, wait, you're still doing that? And he lives with a sugar glider named Flash. I actually have to look that up. I'm like, what's a sugar glider? And why is this important? But because he just has to. I guess it's just a thing. Curious to hear about how that ended up in the family. So welcome to the show, Matthew. I'm so grateful to have you.
It's great to be here, TV. Yeah, it's awesome. Can't wait for our conversation.
Yeah, when we first met and we did a little one-on-one to just get to know each other. Afterwards, we both felt like maybe we should have just recorded this conversation because we hit it off. The conversation flowed. We were in and out. It was fantastic. But we're here today and we're going to dig in a little deeper and we're going to have another fantastic conversation. So thank you. Thank you again. So let's start off with, and by the way, I want to share a little insights into this particular episode. In the past, I usually ask the individuals to introduce themselves, and that's great. But then they go for like 10 minutes and they share things that I would have loved to have picked, add, and shared, through the conversation. I got to change that up. So I'm changing it up, just so you know. So as we have our conversation, you'll share your insights, your knowledge, your wisdom. Because otherwise people go in, you can't help it. Like, please stop me. I've actually had people tell me, please stop me. Welcome to the show. So let's start off the show by asking, if in your life you had a theme song and every time you walked in to a room, it played, what would it be and why would it be Eye of the Tiger?
I love that. Why would it be Eye of the Tiger? Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, I'm a huge Rocky fan. Yes, and I love the underdog. I love underdog stories, right? Overcoming, and so yeah. So I think that's why I'm a huge fan. But also, I think like when you have the Eye of the Tiger, you're purpose driven. You have your eye on making a difference and making a positive change in the world. And so you just got to stay the course, like have that fire in your eye. So it's a great way to live.
Seriously. Yeah, I actually taught, my girls are 22 and 20 now, my daughters. And I think they were like 11 or 12 when I pulled that up. I said, you have to know this song. End up singing when we go to bars because they'll play it. Like my girls know the Eye of the Tiger. It's like a classic underdog song. It's Rocky. Come on, let's get with the program. So if they ever hit rock bottom, I'm just gonna crank that baby up and off and running we go.
Yeah, I love it. Let's go.
Which brings me to music. A large part of your identity, your career, who you are, your identity, revolves around music. When did you first discover that music was this very powerful thing in your life? And how did it continue? How has it continued to become that?
Yeah, well, I think music just brought me joy from a really young age, just period. So I remember just making up songs and singing at the top of my lungs. And I started writing lyrics to songs when I was 5 years old, started my own rock band. I was the only member at first. I just played a tennis racket with my guitar, but I would sing my heart out, and then started piano lessons. And I started learning the saxophone when I was 9 and fell in love with jazz and improvisation. And that became a really important part of my life. And I got to play with Dizzy Gillespie while I was in high school. It was really amazing opportunities. Toured Japan with the Monterey Jazz Festival High School All-Star Jazz Group Band, and just had some amazing opportunities. And then I decided this is, what I want to do with my life. So I went to Lawrence University, where I teach now, and pursued music education and performance. And also, sidebar, I also did a government major too. So I was interested in other things as well. But I became a high school band director and middle school band director in Colorado. I taught for 15 years in Colorado, teaching public schools, and then did a doctorate degree in conducting, as I fell in love with conducting. Just absolutely love that energetic connection with the musicians when you're a conductor, and the kind of the art of creation. And then I moved to the university, which is my alma mater, in 2014. So I just wrapped up 11 years conducting the band at Lawrence University and heading up the music education department. So music is just like in my heart and in my soul.
I get it. I've met people like you, and it's always been a fascinating thing to witness. I actually have a friend whose entire family are band nerds, and like his daughter is already a director at some school. His son just graduated, and I think he's been pegged to be a director at another school. So what draws people to that kind of culture, that kind of job? Because it's a very tough job to try to lead so many young people to do something in unison, while also right. I watched. I was visiting. This kind of play with that. I was visiting a client of mine, did some videos, and she showed me her daughter doing a dance performance. She's 8, but they did such a good job, and I'm blown away by how in unison and on time they were at 8 years old. I'm thinking, oh, that's great, but I'm just as impressed with the instructor and the teacher to get them to nail that. So, back to you. How do you guys work with that? What draws you to this type of career?
One, I think for sure, music is our passion and love. Many of us have had music teachers that have inspired us. So it's a way of like wanting to give back, almost like our life was changed by music educators. So, we want to impact people through that. And there's something really special, and I think it's part of any teaching, but that those aha moments that happen with students when things click and they're like, and then they get it. Or I like the challenge when you start to rehearse a piece of music and at first, it's not quite fitting together, right? But as you work on the rhythms and the harmony and the balance and the blend and the tone and the emotion and feeling, it just comes together to become this inspirational musical experience that can not only impact the conductor and the musicians, but also impacts the listener, right? And the audience. And it's kind of like circuitry of electric current of energy that happens. And I think that's a really big reward.
It's just, so you're like hunting or waiting for those moments where those kids' light bulbs come on, like, oh, I get it. Oh, I get it. And my daughter was a band nerd. She was a drum major in high school for like junior and senior year. So it became her entire life. And there was moments when I know she would come to me and she's like, I finally understand this thing that the director, I forget his name, I'm not going to mention him, but that she finally got certain concepts or certain ideas that he's been trying to impart on her. So I hadn't considered that, like just being there it's fulfilling for you as the instructor, I would say.
I think there's a lot of parallels between, I'm sure, being a parent and being a teacher, right? And so my wife and I, we don't have children. I know you do. We have 2 dachshunds and a sugar glider, but I imagine that as a parent, there's this moments when you see like your children, go through those different levels of discovery and maturity that just, has to make you proud, that you can say like, yeah, I influenced that or led them to have these experiences that led to this level of discovery for them. It must be rewarding too.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And put that together. But it's an absolute joy to witness in those moments when they'll even, sometimes they say it, sometimes they won't. Hey, Dad, you remember that thing you taught me? Or you told me? It's so true. You remember you told me that Jonathan that little boy was, I told you he was just a friend, and you're like, no, I think he wants a little more with you. I think he's interested. He likes you. No, Dad. 5 years later, you were right. Exactly. You were right, Dad. How'd you know, Dad? Because I used to be Jonathan. I used to be the little shy kid. But moments like that are definitely intoxicating. To this day, even as adults, it happens a lot. And honestly, now it happens in a way that they don't even know that was my idea that I planted in them when they were 10. Now they're 20. Like, Dad, did you know that X, Y, and Z? I did actually, but you can own that. It's fine. It's on the parenting side. Sometimes you get credit, sometimes you don't. It's okay. You have to roll. Today's episode of Becoming Better Ancestors is brought to you by me. That's right, TV the Marketer, founder of Rockstar.Marketing, where we help small businesses stop being invisible and start becoming unforgettable. That's what you are. If you run a local business and you're tired of throwing money away on ads that don't work, or worse, trusting your cousin's friend who does marketing on the side, it's time to call in the pros. We do digital advertising, video marketing, AI integrations, and strategy that actually gets results. No fluff, no excuses, just ROI. Head on over to www.rockstar.marketing. It's a real thing. And let's make some marketing magic happen. Moving on. Big question, because it ties into a lot of what you do as well, and with the band and what you do on the side, because you have a side gig that's a massive gig.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive. So the big question I like to start off with is, what is your definition of leadership?
Yeah, I like to share that leadership is inspiring and encouraging others to achieve their full potential. And interesting backstory on that definition is I started what we ended up calling a leadership symposium when I was a high school band director with my students. And we started meeting once a week and training on different leadership principles, and also just having discussions about what kind of band we wanted to create. And my students and I collaboratively came up with that definition of leadership. And that was almost 20 years ago, believe it or not, in collaboration with my high school band students. So it's really neat that it still resonates with me. This idea that when you inspire somebody or you encourage someone, that's truly an act of leadership. And I think part of it is also, as a leader, we're trying to inspire people to, achieve their full potential. And that begins with, of course, the leader's belief in I like to say, people's unlimited potential. And the leader's belief totally impacts what others can achieve. And I think that's really exciting.
That's beautiful. That's the fact that it came from or in collaboration with your students is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that a lot, because it does resonate in terms of the way I see leadership as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be the person at the front of the room,
right?
But it could be others, which also speaks to the fact that it's seen usually as an individual or a group of people, maybe the leadership group. But there's no leap if you don't have followers, or if you don't have an audience of people that are listening to the people that may be imparting this knowledge. Then leadership is just it's just not there. It's useless without the people to actually follow through on the actions or the inspiration, to your point. So it's pretty neat. Follow-up question on that is, do you believe that people are born with leadership qualities, or do you feel like it's a learned skill? Is it nurture or nature?
Yeah, I like to share that. Yeah, in my experience, that leadership is a skill that can be learned and a skill that can be taught, which is pretty significant, because I think some people put limits on themselves and they think, oh, I'm not a leader. But in my experience, I've been able to coach and develop skills in other people. And I also don't think there's like one type of leader. Some people think, oh, you got to be outgoing, you got to be out in front to be the leader. And I'll share, no, some of the greatest leaders are quiet leaders. There's different styles of leadership. And some of the people that have made the biggest impact in the world have been quiet introverts who are super thoughtful, right? And they listen deeply, and they often come up with a solution that maybe the leader who's talking so much hasn't taken the time to reflect on. And so that's really encouraging for folks of all ages, because sometimes I think a leader has to fit this sort of this archetype of, somebody who's bold, courageous, out in front, and is always, speaking first. But sometimes the best leaders take more time to listen before they speak.
Yeah, completely agree. I became keenly aware of that. I don't know, about 15, 16 years ago. I was at a leadership camp training, uh, actually with Susan, who was our mutual friend that
Oh, yeah.
introduced us. I had known her for a while, but she was there as well. And we did a bunch of exercises, and I was still new to. So background of me, I was in the grocery business. I was in leadership at some point. For most of it, I was in management leadership. So I always worked in retail, customer service type of roles. And at a very young age, I ended up in management role. Like by this time I was 18, right out of high school, they put me in a management position. So I did these kinds of things all the time. I tried to inspire, motivate, through just modeling, just trying to show them how we need to do things or why we need to do things. So that's the context as to who I was leading up into this camp. And then we go, and at this camp, there's dozens of very successful people. And there's several things I'd like to talk about here and share your thoughts. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Um, I, for the most part, have always considered myself a hesitant leader. I'd really prefer to not lead. I'd rather not be in charge. Um, and it became quite clear that this was my pattern during this event, because we did 4 or 5 different tasks or group projects, essentially, where we're trying to accomplish a goal. And there's always the 1 or 2 people that are the loudest, the boldest, the most outlandish, or just like, follow me, I got the right answer. And I was never that guy. And in fact, I would usually refrain from even speaking if I had no choice. But inevitably, I felt compelled to share my opinion or my thought, especially after group 1 failed at accomplishing the task or couldn't get the buy-in from the group. This was usually 6, 8, 10 of us. And Susan actually made me aware of this, because after like exercise 3 or 4, the group started turning to me and asking me what my thoughts were and how we should accomplish this particular task. And I'm thinking like, whoa, why are we, what are we doing here? I'm trying to be but it wasn't my style. I've never been the loud one. I do what I do because I have to or because I'm asked to, but in most scenarios, I'd rather not. I'd rather just support whoever whoever is leading the particular venture. But in this scenario, like, oh my God, this is just who I am. So I can speak to that. I think I don't think I'm the loudest, but I'm definitely, I guess, engaging and funny, so I get people to buy in. But inevitably, I end up being put in the leadership. Like, hey, guy, shove me. And it happened after that. I saw the pattern, and I just let go. And Susan would go on to tell me, like, you just need to take it on. It's who you are, and you're clever, you're smart, you understand things. So like, okay, we'll do. So to your point of being quiet, I can completely relate to that.
Yeah. And sometimes we need encouragement, just like you did. Sometimes, sometimes the quiet leaders are like, hey, you got something to share. You got something to offer. I'll share that 2 things. One, the extroverted leader can work on themselves by listening more and also encouraging the quiet leaders to speak up, because I think that's important. And the introverted leaders need to build their courage to share and speak up, because they often have really valuable ideas. So it's sort of both folks need to compromise a little bit, or maybe go into an uncomfortable area, right? The loud leaders need to listen more, and the quiet leaders need to speak out more. And I think when that happens, then we can really have an amazing synergy.
Synergy happens.
Yeah. I also share with folks that leadership comes from within. Leadership comes from within. And the most important person you'll ever lead is yourself. I think that's so important. And so I really focus on the inner world first before the outer world. I think that's so important, is, our own mindset, our self-talk, our personal goals, our intentions that we're setting and making a positive difference. It comes from within. And then leadership is an extension from that. So I think that's really important too.
I agree. I was at the same camp. It's funny you mentioned that. I was roomed with an older gentleman. He was easily 70 plus, successful so 16, 17 years ago. I was struggling to just survive, and I went to this thing. I was allowed to go for free because I was working with the guy who was hosting it. So I felt like I didn't even belong there. I'm rooming with this individual, this incredible man who's a leader. Like, he literally leads large groups of men, 70 to 100 men, I believe, like in this leadership kind of group, men's group. And he admitted to me, we were in our room, how scared he was that one day people were eventually going to find out that he was a fake, that he didn't know what he was doing. And my question to you is, do you still find that to be true in other contexts of your experience and wherever you roam in leadership groups or as you teach these workshops and speak on stages?
Yeah, it sounds like you're referring to imposter syndrome. Does that sound about right?
That sounded about right. Yeah. Why is it so consistent even when people are doing the thing that they're successful at, that they still question themselves? Do you find that pattern still to be true?
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting, I think self-doubt is one of those things that people wrestle with. And for me, when I'm in my comfort zone, it'll be, working with groups of people that I've worked with. The people will change, but similar kinds of groups of people that I've worked with. What I love to do is to cross-train. I call it cross-training. Ooh, and step outside my comfort zone and maybe work with groups that I hadn't worked with before to apply what I teach, which is called upbeat leadership, in different fields to see if it still resonates. And that's like the ultimate test for me. And so anytime you try something new, it's like, okay, I don't know if this is going to resonate or if it's going to work, but I want to go for it because I believe in it. And so what happens is sometimes in the lead up to the teaching, I might be a little nervous because it's new. Yeah. So once I get going, then I just tap into what I know. And I think an important thing to remember is that nobody knows what you are teaching better than you. Right? And so nobody knows upbeat leadership better than me because I created it.
Yep.
And so once I get into that flow, then it's like, oh yeah, this is working. This is great. And then it's just the audience shifts, but the content is so rock solid that I have confidence that it's going to work. I've also presented for and spoke for so many thousands of hours, right? They share this idea. Some folks call it the 10,000 hour rule.
Oh yes.
But right, you think about like what it takes to get to that level of expertise. And I think back to when my early presentations, I had a notebook and I had all these notes and I'd be looking at the notes as I was presenting. I mean, I haven't used notes in, many years now, but in the beginning I did, right? So now I'll just go and let's go, and I can teach 3, 6, 7 hours straight.
Wow.
Without
your material.
Yeah.
You're
who I am. Yeah, it's my identity now.
That's a very valid point. I struggle with it so I think I shared with you in the conversation. I actually taught leadership. I snuck my way into the training department at the grocery chain that I was at the time, and I actually spent 2 years in the training department teaching leadership and management. Never been trained how to do it. Kind of just, I guess, raw talent that I had and desire to share. But one of the things that I realized was true for me as well is that I would get nervous before every single class, almost vomiting. And times I was also going through some personal stuff, so I'm literally not doing well. So one of the things that I started to practice, I don't know if I read this somewhere, is I would call it out. So the lack of confidence, I would even be shaky in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I would say, hey guys, y'all probably think I know what I'm doing, and I do, but at the same time, like, check out my hand. I'd call it out, and everybody would be like, oh, TD, stop it. You're amazing. Because after a while, I had got a reputation. But as I got to speaking and I fell into the flow state, everything, like, I know my stuff. And
Yeah.
I guess that goes back to that individual is, I guess we're always going to question ourselves to some extent. But the truth is we know our stuff. And if we're left alone and we just speak on it, after a few minutes, you will find that flow state, that identity, that part of yourself, because it's your truth. It's your information. It's your proprietary content that you've been speaking on for thousands of hours. And I find that to be, I guess that's what I try to tell my daughters as well when they get into those nervous states and questioning themselves, is we're all figuring it out as we go along. None of us really know everything about everything. And it's okay to question yourself, but not to the point where you don't feel like you're worthy to be standing in front of the room or whatever it may be. But it's getting those reps in and being able to override that critical part of your brain, which is trying to run you're not enough, you're not good enough, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Get to 10,000 hours, you forget about it. Yeah, you can go on to your point, hours and hours without having to stress about it as well.
I also find when I shift who it's about, I think when I'm in my head and I'm thinking it's about me, I'm like, oh, I want to do a good job and I hope that they like me. When you're in that state, you're making it about yourself. And I found that if I just flip the script, it's not about me. And I set my intention for, I want to add value to people's lives. I go into a session curious, like I want to learn. I'm presenting, but I also want to learn from the people that I'm presenting with, because I, of course, want to get into conversation. And so it's always like, how am I going to grow today? And I don't ever set myself up as, above anyone. So it's like, I'm bringing this information, but for me, it's collaboration. Let's share, let's grow together. And when you make it about serving others and about providing value to others, all of a sudden you get out of your head and into, hey, I'm focusing on you, not on me. That has helped me so much. I don't know. What about you? Does that shift kind of help?
It does, actually, tremendously, because especially once I started doing it a few times and hearing how valuable the information was, one of the common themes that I started hearing was the information that you just gave me on leadership. I'm using it with my kids. I'm using it with my wife. It's helping like they'd come back to a second or third class. We'd have multiple classes. So that made me feel like what I was sharing was actually impacting our life, not just at the store level or in the room, but at home. So when I would have those moments of insecurity or in my own head about my performance, because it's a performance of sorts, right?
Yeah.
Flipping it to, I'm just going to share the information because they're going to benefit from it, is universally true in and outside the store. Talk TV, trust yourself, and it will work itself out. Inevitably, it would. The switch would flip, and within 15 to 20 minutes, we're all laughing, we're enjoying, we're having conversations, and it would just become just a collaborative class, because in a training type of thing, essentially workshops, you need that back and forth. So it worked every single time. You're right. It's when you get out of your own head and about how good you're doing and how good you look or how dumb you look, whatever that critic is saying, it becomes easier because it's not about you.
Yeah. So that's just a nice shift. I think somebody had shared that with me. Hey, Matthew, it's not about you. It's about what you can do for other people. I'm like, that's right. That's what I teach anyways. That's what leadership is about. How can you lift others up, So when you make it about them, you can kind of get out of that negative self-talk in your head.
The other, and I'll leave out before we move on. I heard this years ago, or when I was going through it, because I was with my team. I'm like, I'm nervous. Every time they're like, TV, if you're not nervous, you don't care. And that means you don't care. Like you've made it too easy. It's too simple. And it's rote memory at that point. And then something else that they said was that there's some, even rock stars and performers, before they go on stage, it's been pretty documented that many of them will throw up. Like their own nerves are coming up. So if it's true for them, it's going to be true for me. It's going to be fine. Let's just get on with it and just speak and share the information. And nothing's going to go wrong, because they want me to succeed as well. They're there to learn, and right. So all that's just to reinforce yes, you're good enough. Yes, you're fine. Yes, you're going to teach something valuable, and just keep it moving, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
So the next question I wanted to ask you is, what's the toughest leadership job or task that you've had to take that you overcame or that you're still working through?
Yeah, let me give some thought. That's of course, a great question. Like leadership challenges. Well, I think one of the greatest challenges as a leader is to help people that don't believe in themselves
Mm. Yeah.
believe in themselves. And so I guess I've experienced that throughout my career as an educator and as a speaker and trainer and coach. So if you think about all the way back to my band days, teaching band in Colorado when I was a middle school band director and then a high school band director, folks will often think like, oh, I can't do this,
Right.
or I'm not talented. And they kind of put these mental roadblocks up, those fixed mindsets. But I always took that on as a challenge, and enjoyed that, to almost be like, how can I help this student or person find like just a little bit of success, like a little bit of achievement,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then like amplify that. Be like, did you see that you did that? That was so awesome. Like you're getting better, and encouraging them. And so, that's, at the middle school and the high school level, it's a big challenge because you're dealing with, how people think about themselves or how they view their own ability. But I've loved to share that, people have unlimited potential. It's a matter of figuring out like different strategies to help them get there. No, not the same one strategy is not going to work for everybody. So as a teacher, I always try to come up with 5 different ways to teach the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just that was a goal, and also the way I learn isn't going to be the same way that somebody else learns too. So you got to start thinking about like, what are other creative ways to help people get there? And the same thing applies at the collegiate level. I'm training, future teachers and trying to find ways to uplift them, but also to be able to critique simultaneously, because you don't want to like crush people's, feeling about themselves when you need to critique. So it's finding a way to help people see what they can do better without crushing their soul. Right. And I find that it kind of a blend of like, this is really well, but let's shift to this, let me demonstrate how this could be. And I, as a teacher, I'm always like thinking about what can I do differently to help support them, but take them to the next level, because you don't want to accept and be like, oh, that's good enough when it isn't. Right. You
Right.
really got to keep encouraging people and finding strategies to help them get to the next level. So I find that that's almost a daily challenge for me.
Yeah.
But it actually keeps me fresh. Like I like it. I like the challenge. Isn't that interesting? I'm kind of drawn to the challenge.
It's like putting a puzzle together, I imagine. Like, I'm going to find this piece that fits. I'm going to find 5 pieces. 5 of these pieces, one of these is really going to fit in the puzzle. That is this human, that is their identity or their confidence, right?
Yeah. 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 Helping people increase confidence, I think, is really important. Of course, I always share that confidence is linked to competence, right?
I agree.
Your level of
Yep.
your level of confidence is equal to your level of competence. So if you want to raise your confidence, you need to raise your competence, and you can only do that through consistent practice, like consistent practice. And a lot of people don't want to put in the time. I'm like, but
Right.
if you want to grow your competence, it's going to take a lot of effort. It's not going to happen overnight. It can take weeks, months. You got to stick with it. If you really want it, you got to get after it. And
Yeah.
that's where that perseverance happens.
That's really good. As a father, I remember hearing, well, personally, you just had to be more confident. You have to be more confident. I'm like, how do you be more confident? How can one just be more? Can I just turn up the knob on being more? Like I could. I mean, but if I don't have the confidence, ultimately led me to, I'm not competent at this thing because I just came into it. I started learning how to dance many years ago after my divorce because I wanted to do this thing and I sucked. And I had to be okay with not being very good. Um, and over time, and I got a little more confident, not to mention the social component of it was still beneficial. Like maybe I wasn't very good, but I wasn't very good with another group of people that weren't very good either because we're all beginners. So there's the social component, like we're good, we're gonna be fine. But only after finding a certain level of competence did my confidence start to go up. And that confidence started to radiate into other aspects of my life. And as I like to tell people as it relates to my dance, is it really helped me walk straighter, walk with a sense of purpose, like, because now I know how to walk in my body to a rhythm. And
Yeah.
now the idea of confidence is there, um, but it only came through competence. And I had probably 5 or 6 years where I wasn't very good. And right now I'm okay, but I'm good enough that I can give a good dance without thinking, being in my head about how good or bad I am. I'm just having a good time. And it only comes through the reps and the competence to be able to get there. And to your point, I think most people in various contexts of life don't want to do that time. They don't want to look bad, which I think is just foolish. I actually try to tell my girls to be okay, not being good. If you want to try something good new, you have to be okay with it, not being good. You're not just going to be good. Like that entire notion is foolish, but it comes, you're going to get there. Just keep doing it just for the fun of it. Otherwise, don't even start because you're not going to be good.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Come on.
Yeah. You got to enjoy what you're doing, right?
It's a journey, right? Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the people that are there with you, having a good time. You're moving. That's beneficial. You may not be good, but you're moving. You're out. You're about. You're listening to good music. That's life. Let's enjoy that. Um, I did want to ask you with regards to that. Like, who do you find is more challenging? And it's not a competition, but is it easier, harder to work with the young individuals versus the corporate people or teachers or in corporations when you're teaching your workshops?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and it really does vary on the person. But I would share that the young people are often more hungry for like this information, and they're more open to growth. They're like, oh man, I'm really thinking about this. And being a student leader, as your daughter being a drum major experienced, there's a lot of challenges that go with that. Leading your peer group when you're in high school and I always show, like, you don't really have any authority. You can't hire and fire people, right? It's not like when you're a boss or a manager. So you have to earn the respect every day. Just because your director says, hey, you're the drum major, you're the section leader, doesn't automatically give you respect amongst the students. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite. We've seen students get like torn down, and the second they're like lifted up or elevated to a leadership title, it's almost human nature. There's students to be like, oh, they shouldn't have gotten that, or other people that auditioned who didn't get it are jealous, and they start to tear down those people. So then it's almost makes it even more difficult. So you have to really earn the respect. So when I offer strategies and principles and ideas for earning respect, building trust, elevating your leadership style so that you can collaborate with others and work alongside them to be really effective, students are like, tell me more. Now, when you get into adulthood, some adults are still super open to growth, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is great. It's changing my life. And this is transformational. This is just what I needed. But inevitably, there's also some adults that are like, I'm done learning. I got everything figured out. I don't need this. I'm good.
Yeah. Why am I in this class? Why are you teaching?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So but usually what I discover is that while in the beginning, let's say there's a professional development situation where I'm working with teachers or business owners, at first there might be like that guard that's up. That's sort of like the arms crossed, like, okay, Buster, what do you got for me? But usually by the time we get going, there's laughter and everybody's engaged, and they're like, okay, this is cool. And I'm really growing today. So, but I find that there might be a little bit of resistance more from adults than there are from high school students in the beginning.
I definitely ran into that group. So when I was teaching classes, there was a new program at the time. They required everyone in the company to come to essentially continued education, leadership, delegation, all various types of classes that I was teaching. And there was that group that always, especially if they hadn't been to one of my classes, they would, and if they were assistant manager, store manager, director, that kind of at a higher role, they're like, I already know everything. There's nothing you can teach me. I've been doing this management thing 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you can't teach me anything. Like, and it's intimidating from for a person who's just starting doing this thing, right? But
Right.
I definitely, within 15 to 20 minutes, had to get their buy-in, get them laughing.
Yeah.
And they are challenging. And on the flip side of that, I was also in the stores where almost a majority of my staff were teenagers. They're 15, 16, 17. Yeah. Like they're checkers, cashiers, sackers, stockers, everything. Majority of them, but in the shifts that they would work are younger. So I had this interesting mix in trying to change my communication style, trying to relate to them in a different way to make sure that we're all on the same page. But they each have their complications. They each are challenging to try to get the message across or buy in, because I'm a young at the time I was younger, I suppose. I'm this young kid. Why should I listen to you? Or you're not much older than me. Why should I listen to you? Right? So this weird dynamic that happens of people questioning why we should even bother following you if you're going to be gone in a week or two.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool that you also had the experience of teaching and coaching high school students and adults. Yeah.
It was a challenge, and I got to be pretty good at it because I figured out how to relate to them. And I think that's what it comes down to in any leadership kind of component, is how can you relate so they know that you're here to help them, you're here to support them. Yes, you're working and you're getting paid, but I would like to help you, help me, kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of I suppose my trick on trying to get them to buy in is like, I'm here to support you. I'm a
Yeah.
fan of you. And if that means helping you grow to become, take another role at another company or move up, then that's what I'll help you do. You will have a fan in me. All I need is your help while you're here. You got to train and be the kind of person you want to be in the future. And I want, like, so show up here now. That was kind of my general pitch,
Yeah.
to get their buy-in. Because if you don't get the buy-in, then trying to get them to do anything after that is difficult, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So finding those connection points. And you're so right about building that relationship. And sometimes it's through telling a joke or it's being vulnerable, like being authentic, I think is really key to kind of break down those barriers and be like, okay, we're human to human here. We're just going to
Yeah.
interact. So,
I think, and you can tell me if you've had an experience with this. It's always to work in these stores. If management will come even before I was in management. There was a period when I refused to be in management, and I was just a little stalker that put stuff on the shelves. In like my 20s, 25, I refused to be in management. So we were doing a great job as a team, doing the thing, and then our assistant got transferred, and they brought a new guy. We were running a really good program and doing things in a timely manner, leaving on time, hours, blah blah blah. But the new guy came in, and he's like, "We're gonna fix everything because way you were doing it was inefficient." Da 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 da. I'm like, "Oh my god, that was the worst thing the best worst thing you could have said to just not get buy-in. You just insulted everybody on the team, saying that whatever we were doing was not working, and that you have this great solution." And I just found that to be weird, like not connecting, not relating, not at least understanding what's happening in here, besides criticizing and in fact insulting it. I feel like that's a common thing. It's not obviously specific to this space, but where some people feel like they can just come in and just ramrod their efforts or their ideas down the team they just adopted down their throats, and this is not going to work in most cases, or ever, frankly.
yeah, that's like, I agree with you. That's almost the worst thing you can possibly do. Yeah.
It was crazy, and it was funny. It's like 3 months later, he's like, "All right, go back to whatever y'all were doing, because clearly I made a mistake." I'm like, "Okay." And he ended up becoming a friend, but he was vulnerable enough to actually tell me that, because I'm the kind of guy that, like, whatever you want to do, boss. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and fight with you. Just tell me what you need, how you want it done. Okay. But I guess not relating and at least understanding what the baseline is before insulting the group, because it's not beneficial. Come on, it's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. I would say, like, connect before you correct is really, and I
I
also
like that.
share, like, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oh,
I
is
think
that
that's,
that's a good one.
that,
I forgot who that is.
that's, yeah, it was originally Theodore Roosevelt, actually, President Theodore Roosevelt, who's credited with that.
Okay.
But I really
Or
like
Zig
that
Ziglar.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like there's variations, but it started with Theodore Roosevelt. Zig Ziglar said a variation. John Maxwell has a variation, but it's I traced it
20%.
back to. Yeah, it's really a great idea. Yeah, connect before you just like boom, share all your ideas. Yeah.
I heard this when I did take some classes on my own. An NLP, a master practitioner. It's one of the
Mm,
principles that they teach is match, pace, lead. So match where the person is, meet them where they're at, the group, the
okay,
person,
I like that.
pace them, then pace them to walk together, then lead. So they have to buy in. You have to go where they're at, wherever that is, whether it be emotionally, physically, like literally, if it's a child, get down to their level, match, pace,
Yep.
lead. And it's to me, it's always stuck and it's essentially the same because you, at that level, you're understanding where they're at, where their point of view, what their struggles are before you're telling them, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go that way, right? Match, pace, lead.
Yeah. So tell me more about pace. Is that when you're walking alongside, you're with them at the same time? What does pace mean exactly?
I think at that point, in theory, is you're starting to take a couple of steps in front of them. You're pacing them. I think in like
Like in
Indianapolis 500, you have the pace car who's slightly in front,
Yep.
setting a tempo for everyone before they unleash them.
Got it.
So match, pace, and then eventually lead if that's the role that you're going to take on. And I try to keep that in mind whenever I'm talking to anyone about anything is match them. Where are we at? If they're sad, like don't necessarily be miserable, be sad with them. Don't try to be, hey guy, why are you so sad? Like let's be chippy. Let's be positive. As a leader, is frankly as a friend, that's probably the worst thing you can do. Like, guy, just have a moment here.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great little principle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like that. It's a little bit like empathy.
Yeah,
Like,
this is actually
where you're at, where you at, and I'm gonna join you there, and then let's see where we're gonna go. That's very cool.
Hey there, it's me again. This episode, in case you forgot, of the Becoming Better Ancestors is sponsored by yours truly. I'm TV, the guy behind Rockstar.marketing. We help purpose-driven businesses go from best kept secret to everybody's talking about them using digital ads, compelling video, and marketing that actually works. If you got a message that matters but need help getting it heard, we should talk. Head over to www.rockstar.marketing and let's make you impossible to ignore. Yeah. All right, Matthew. Let's wrap up. We're headed down the tail end of this conversation. Tell us about the power of get. Something I saw on your website, something you mentioned to me. I made it a point not to dig in more because I want to hear it as new information, discovery. I want to hear all about it.
All right. Well, this has been really transformative for me. This is the book where it's in. It's called Upbeat Mindset, Mindfulness, and Leadership in Music Education and Beyond. And Power of Get's really in chapter 2. But let me share a little bit about this because it's changed my life and it's really changed a lot of other people's lives. And it's connected to a moment, like a particular morning where everything kind of happened. And so I'll share this story. I won't take too long.
No, please. You got time. We had a few gaps in our conversation, so I would love to take your time. Don't feel rushed. I want to hear.
Okay, great. Yeah, it was September 12th, 2020. And I woke up that morning in our home in Neenah, Wisconsin, where my wife and I live. And I was looking forward to going for a swim that morning. We have a swimming pool. And because we live in Wisconsin, it can't be open year round. Unlike maybe in Texas where you are, maybe you can't have pools open year round. But where I'm at, the winters are... Okay, 1 month. You were like 1 month. Okay. So we'll have our pools open maybe from May to the end of September, early October. So September 12th, I woke up. I really wanted to go for a swim. I love to go for a swim every single day that I'm home. But when I woke up that morning, it was dark, dreary, windy. It was cold. It was about 40 degrees outside.
Oof.
I know. And it was raining, and it wasn't just like a light rain. It was like buckets, like a deluge of rain. And so I decided, well, I'm not going to be able to go for a swim. So I made some coffee or tea that morning. And then I did a morning meditation, mindful breathing routine. And then I got out a notebook and I started journaling.
Mm.
And I actually, I don't know about you, but I found journaling to be really, I don't know, very helpful, cathartic, maybe therapeutic during the pandemic. Just
Oh,
There was so much going on, and
yes.
I found journaling just really helpful. So I started thinking about the day before, which is September 11, 2020, but I didn't end up journaling about the day before. Actually, I went back in time to 9/11.
Oh,
So September 2001. And I thought about that day. And on that day, I was a middle school band director in my 5th year of teaching in Loveland, Colorado. And I drove from our home in Fort Collins to Loveland. As I was driving to school, I had no idea that our lives were about to change forever. I got to school, and my principal said to me, "Hey, Matthew, I just heard something really strange on the radio. I heard that somebody flew a plane into one of the towers in New York City." I was like, "Whoa, what?" He said, "I don't know anything else about it. I just heard somebody flew a plane into the towers." And back then, the news didn't travel like it does today. It wasn't instantaneous. You didn't have our little phones to look at and see everything like you do now. Back then, it was like the radio, and it was really sketchy news. So I went into the band room, and I turned on the television, which was just over the whiteboard in the front of the room. And I'm sure like probably every station that day had the same news. So I just turned it on, and I could see that it wasn't somebody who just flew like a little small plane that accidentally flew into the towers. Of course, we all know that iconic image, but to me, it was the most traumatic or horrifying thing I'd seen in my life up to that point. And about 10 minutes later, my first student started walking into the room, and 11-year-old students with their instruments. And we didn't get our instruments out. We just set them down on the floor, and we just watched the news happen in real time. And at the end of that first class, together we saw the first tower crumble in flames.
oof.
And we had no words. There were no words. And then the second 6th grade band students came in. And again, we didn't get our instruments out. We just watched the news happen in real time. And at the end of the second class, we saw the second tower crumble in flames. And we just sat there in silence, because there were no words. And then I had a planned period and then lunch, followed by 2 7th grade bands and 2 8th grade bands. The 7th graders started walking into the room, and there was a student. She saw the TV was on. She said, "Can we turn the TV off?
Ooh.
We've been watching the news in every single class today, and it's really hard. Can we get our instruments out? Can we play today?" And I said, "You know what? That's a great idea." So I got up, I turned the TV off. We got our instruments out. We started warming up, and then we got our band method book out, which is a small book. It's a collection of pieces that kind of takes you from easier to more difficult pieces. It turned out that number 6 in this book we were using is the first piece that teaches the 3/4 time signature, like 3 beats in the measure, like a waltz. But it was also a piece that was really appropriate for that day. It was titled America.
No.
Yeah. And the piece begins with the words, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing." And we played just those 6 measures. It sounded like this. Da, 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 da. And we played America over and over and over again. That's all we played, actually, the entire class. And we did the same thing with the next 7th graders, and then the 8th graders came in. And we had an arrangement of a piece of music in our folders already. It was Amazing Grace. And we played Amazing Grace over and over and over again in both of those classes. And on that day, my students and I came to understand the true superpower of music in a way that none of us had ever experienced before. Not even me, and I'd been involved in music my entire life, right? But I came to understand what it's meant when it said, "When words fail, music speaks." Because on that day, there were no words, but we had music to express how we felt in our heart. As I was journaling and reflecting on that day, I started making a to-do list. Sometimes I would do that, like journal and make a to-do list for the day. And sometimes a to-do list really feels like a have-to-do list, doesn't it? Yeah, like just a checklist of survival to get through. But something in my mind switched that morning, being in the midst of the global pandemic and thinking about 9/11 and that day and what that meant. I just added one 3-letter word to my to-do list, and that word is get. Just G-E-T. And now my to-do list read something like this. I get to email Sarah. I get to call Mark. I get to study my music. I get to prepare to teach my classes. And then I wrote, I get to dance in the rain. And I get
to.
Yes. And then I wrote, I get to go for a swim. And even though it was freezing cold outside and raining so hard, I put on my swim shorts, opened up the sliding glass door, and I went outside, and it was really cold. And I went to the edge of the pool, and I did just like a little jig. It was like 3 seconds long because I said I was going to dance, so I did just a little dance, Stevie, just a little dance. And then I dove into the pool, and I'm swimming in the pool, doing laps in this pool, and I'm thinking about all that I get to do, right? Like, I get to have this breath. I get to have this life. I get to go for a swim. I get to live a life inspiring others. I get to live a life in music. I thought, gosh, how fortunate I am. And as I was swimming, I thought about another 3-letter word that's so powerful, and that word is yet. And I thought about, growth mindset and Carol Dweck's work on growth mindset and her TED Talk called The Power of Yet. And I thought, well, why is yet so powerful? And I realized it's because when somebody says, I can't do something, I can't do this, right? We respond and say, you can't do it yet, which is just so powerful. And I think as a teacher, as a coach, it says, I'm going to be there alongside you. I believe in you. I'm going to help you. We're going to work on this together. I know you're not there yet, but I believe it's going to happen. See, yet is about hope. Yet is about the future, isn't it? And then I thought, well, why am I so excited about get? The power of get. I realized when we live in what I call the spirit of get, we live in the present moment. We live in the now. Like, for example, you and I, TV, we get to have this conversation right now, right? This is something to be treasured. And then present is the only moment that's ever guaranteed. And so I got out of the pool. I was just so jazzed about the power of get. And then I said, what if you could add meaning to each of the letters, G-E-T? And that's what I did. So G stands for gratitude. And I thought, how many times have I felt appreciation for someone and kept it to myself?
Oh,
plenty. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to share appreciation, openly. I'm going to be abundant with sharing appreciation. And then E is for enthusiasm, to live life with enthusiasm. We only get this one life, and live all in, live full out. And I'll tell you what, when I was researching for my book, enthusiasm, the word, it comes from the Greeks, and it has a really significant meaning. So it's broken in 3 parts, right? Enthusiasm. It turns out the middle part, thus, means God. Easm means essence. And N means within. Enthusiasm literally translates to the essence of God within us.
It's powerful.
When I learned that, I thought, how would I live my life knowing that? How could I live my life knowing that? How would you live your life knowing that the essence of God lies within you? And then T is for treasure. To intentionally treasure the people in our lives. In the pandemic, sometimes things we didn't really treasure them until they were taken away from us. Like, we took so many things for granted, right? But then they were taken away, and I decided I'm not going to wait anymore. I don't need to wait for something to be taken away from me to treasure it in the present. And I want to share one final thing about treasure. When we think about treasure, we might think of like the lost or the hidden treasure, or a treasure chest at the bottom of the sea filled with gold coins or something like that. And that is a treasure. But I think the most important treasure is the treasure that lies within us. The treasure that lies within each one of us. And each one of us is a treasure. We have a treasure inside that I think we have a light, a golden light within, and we're meant to share it brightly with the world.
Sure.
And I really think that's what it's all about, my friend, is to share our light brightly with the world. And I think there's, a lot of forces, society kind of maybe wanting to suppress our light, hold us down, push us down. And I think our role here is to shine brightly, to encourage others to shine their light brightly. And I think that's how together we really lift each other and how we can positively change the world. And so as I've shared the power of get with others, my friend, it's been so meaningful to hear stories from people about how just this one simple shift to start thinking about how every moment in life is a get. Like, I get to do the dishes. I have dishes, right?
Yes.
I get to, take my dog for a walk. I get to go shopping, right? I have access to food in the grocery store. I can turn on the tap and get clean drinking water to 2 million people. Is that amazing?
Yes.
2 billion people don't have water. Yeah, they don't have clean drinking water. And so everything, right? Yeah, look at you, right? So
it stays cold for a long period of time. It's like,
wow. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the lives we live, and the privileges and what we have today, if you compare it to what maybe even the kings and queens had 500 years ago, it's no contest. Yeah, we just have so much more than anybody could ever fathom. But I like to just live in the spirit of get, and it's changed my life, and it's certainly changed thousands of other people's lives, and so thanks for asking about that. It's really meaningful.
it's a beautiful metaphor. It's something that I think about often throughout my day. But in pieces. Obviously you put it together in a nice little package, which makes it easy to remember. I do find that a lot of the problems that we have is our lack of appreciation. And as a father, I think about that as well, because how do you teach appreciation? If you've always had it, you can't appreciate not having it, right? If you always have tap water that you can turn on and then whoosh, there it is, it's hard to appreciate not having it until it's taken away, right? That's how you would appreciate it. So it's something I think about often because I'm an immigrant. We were poor for the longest, and even when I started the business, we were pretty poor. I was struggling to make things work. So my daughters got to witness some of that journey, so they can appreciate it. And something I come back to often is I'm in a good place. And I told my girlfriend, my fiance recently, like I'm really careful not to speak on my current situation without taking appreciation for where I'm at, because 15 years ago, TV would have loved to have these problems today. We have new problems, and that's cool, but I get to have these problems. I get to have these challenges. And that's something I think about whenever I find myself in a rut. That's something I'm thinking about a lot right now, actually, because I'm trying to do some new things, is we've been here before. We succeeded. We struggled, but we get to have these problems and these challenges, and we will succeed if you want it bad enough, right? But without appreciating what you've been through, then it's hard to really push yourself to what you can accomplish. I feel, to your point, I think you said it earlier, of taking what you've been through and using it as fuel to keep going, having those success moments. With my daughters, actually, I had a term I coined, the portfolio success. Succeeding at small little things, especially when they were young, to seed them with little blocks of confidence. Whether it's climbing a tree, whether it's getting down from that tree, being able to shoot a basketball, being able to throw a frisbee and catch it. These little skills are a portfolio success that they could then leverage as time gets tougher and the tasks that we have to accomplish get tougher. But like, you've been doing hard things all your life. So being here is proof of that, because we all have been through something, and so have our parents. So to get back to the get, I love that. Tomorrow's not promised. What is it? Worry is you're already anticipating the future.
Yes.
And shame is you're worried about the past, something that happened in the past. So like we're only guaranteed today, and it's hard. It's really hard to focus on today when there's so much happening, but you have to take time out. So meditation, journaling, like you get to really dump the crap that's in your head. Between meditation and journaling, you get to dump it and like, all right, it's out. Let's focus on some new things. So thank you. That was a beautiful story. The fact that the children were the ones that triggered you or said, "Hey, can we do something else? Can we play some music?" I think is profound.
Yes.
It is
Yeah.
magnificent. Like, can we just do something else? My daughter
Yes.
told me that during COVID, that was happening a lot, where it was the anxiety and the this and that eventually she's like, "I'm just over it. I don't want to talk about COVID anymore. Can we study? Can we learn? You don't have to, like, I don't want to hear about it." And then she's like a freshman. She's in college now. I'm like, "You're right. Let's talk about something else." Even with me, like, "Can we talk about something else, Dad? Like, can we do something? Can we go to the park? I don't know. Can we draw?" Yes, of course. I'm sorry. Children have a magnificent way of reminding us about the present.
Yeah.
They haven't lived much life, and they really don't know what's up in front of them. So they're like, "Can we just do something? Anything? I'm hungry. Let's go."
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of gratitude for the wisdom of children. That's for sure. Yeah.
They're able to rattle you and wake you up from whatever you're going through, because right now they're hungry, or they need some distraction, or they need some attention. And whatever crap's going on in here, you got to center yourself for them. To me, they were my biggest leadership role that I've ever taken on. I had to show up for them and at least put on pause whatever anxiety I was feeling, because they had two little humans depending on me to keep them alive. That talk about being present, like, "Oh, can't worry about the future. I didn't worry about the past. Like, what do I got to do to take care of this kid right now?" Yeah, and I go on and on about my kids because they are my biggest role of leadership. I feel that parents are leaders. We really have to embrace that role. We are leaders. Everything we do is a leadership kind of thing. They're watching. I was with my client the other day. Quick story. In Chicago, filming some videos, and her daughter ended up being with us. We went to her home and we shot some videos. She's an attorney, so she's talking, and her daughter's in front of her. It was the most interesting and magnificent thing to watch. So her daughter's in front of her, and she's mimicking almost identically every movement and gesture that the mom was doing. And it just reminds me, like, crystal clear, what children do. If you're not doing it, they're not going to do it. If you're not saying it, they're not going to say it. And if you are, even if you think they're not watching, they're watching. And they're mimicking. It was a fascinating, because she's standing in front of me. Child was right here, and I'm watching her. She's not speaking. She's just like, that's impressive. But it's so real as to what leadership really means. It's just acting in that role that you would like the other individual to walk in and feel confident about doing it. To tie it into what you were saying, is give them the confidence, the inspiration to, "Hey, let's just follow me. Let's go. Watch what I'm doing. Listen to how I'm talking," right? Anyways, that's my little rant on that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yes, my friend.
Any final thoughts that you would like to share with the audience? Where can we find you? I'm obviously going to share all your stuff. Have links everywhere to make sure that they can find you. Buy your book. I'm going to be downloading it myself on my Kindle. I love what you're doing and the way you go about it, and marrying dance with the leadership, and I'm all about that.
Yeah, it's been really cool to kind of take lessons from music and conducting and apply them to leadership, and it's really resonates. So, folks, I guess what I would share is start with going to powerofget.com. If you're going to go anywhere, go to powerofget.com, and it's really exciting. So that's a way we can stay connected. And I've developed what I call the Get Leadership Quiz that you can take for free when you get there. Just 4 questions, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself, and it's tailored to you. You'll find out, what kind of leader you are, whether you're a grower, an energizer, or a trailblazer. And that's really, really exciting. So, but yeah, I just love to stay connected. I'm all about relationships and how we can support one another. And that's what I'm here to do is to support and lift people up and, really help them move from that stress and overwhelm that a lot of people are feeling today and find a pathway forward so you feel energized and thriving again to achieve your purpose-driven life. And that's what I'm here for. So yeah, just reach out, see how I can help. And we have, if you're a reader, we have the Upbeat book, and I always suggest people start with this. We also have the Upbeat journal. We talked about journaling today and how important that is, but I'm going to try to get them on the screen. Yeah, the daily journal. These are all on Amazon too. And then this is kind of cool. Try to get this on the screen here. It's like weird. Okay, here we go. It's opposite of what you think. But here we go. It's the Upbeat Daily Planner, the ultimate organizer for your get-to-dos. And what's very exciting is the Upbeat Leadership Workbook is coming out this August. So that's just another companion to support people in their journey. And so I'm just excited. The concept of upbeat, by the way, in case somebody is wondering,
Sure.
it doesn't just mean, it does mean, of course, a positive, uplifting person. That's great. And I think we all need upbeat people in our lives, but the metaphor of the upbeat is much deeper. It actually comes from conducting. And so in music, when the conductor gives an upbeat to start a piece of music, you may have noticed the conductor's hands are up, and then they literally raise them up. They breathe in like this. They go, and then they breathe out on the downbeat. So you breathe in on the upbeat, breathe out on the downbeat. And what's really neat is music's always created twice. It's created first in your mind and then by the musicians. So the conductor hears the music they want to create first. They're leading with that. They hear it internally, and then the musicians create the sound on the downbeat. But you hear it first. And I've taken that metaphor from conducting into life, and I'll just share TV what this is. So our thoughts are the upbeats to our actions. Our attitude is our upbeat to any situation. And we choose our thoughts and our attitude. We choose our upbeat. And so throughout your day, you can really think about how you can be intentional about choosing your upbeat and really just, what do I want to create here? I always say, rather than focus on what is wrong, focus on what you want to create. And I think every day is an opportunity to create something special when we're intentional.
Oh, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And the fact that this ties into a lot of my own personal philosophies within life, but also within music theory, is fascinating. I have this belief. I learned this in improv, and you do improv. You do musical improv, right? Improvisational jazz, I believe. Improv teaches you that at any given moment, you literally have, let's just say, thousands of options and choices. If you take a beat and pause and think, instinctively, we want to react with our nervous system, like, oh, you go to hell, right? I'm just using an exaggerated example, but in those moments, you actually have a multitude of options. If you take a beat and are intentional, like, what do I really want from this conversation, from this engagement, from this moment? And if you're intentional, you're upbeat, to your metaphor, you can change your life. Problem is, we're too busy reacting instead of acting intentionally. And sometimes I think we have to react because maybe somebody's hitting you in the head with a hammer, like you need to react. Yeah. But in many cases, it's not that. And if you just take a moment, choose your action, choose how you're going to speak, react, be in that moment, you can change your life. You can change everything about your identity. But and I think, to finish, go back to the point you said earlier, and I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with. And I think especially older generations is they feel that they're wired, they are who they are.
Right.
And that you cannot improve who you are. You can't improve your skills. You can't be a leader, become a leader, become better. It's like, this is who I am. You just got to accept me. I'm just a grouchy old fart. Choosing intentionally, like, how do I want to show up? I don't want to be a grouchy old fart with my grandchildren. And so I don't want to continue that. I can choose to be different. I can improve that skill set, even if it's one moment at a time. So thank you for sharing that. It's a fantastic. I had it in my list of questions that I wanted to ask you, but as we were going around, forgot.
Love it.
Beat is your brand, right? It's thank you for sharing the philosophy behind it. Matthew, one more question before we bounce. I actually really like it. Let's imagine that your upbeat philosophy becomes a Pixar movie. What's the plot? And who voices you?
Who voices me? That is great. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see here. So, a Pixar movie. I'll tell you what. I have this idea that it would be really based on this power of get. So, what it would start off with, it would be in black and white, and it would be a child character, maybe 8 years old, and they're going through life, and they're pretty miserable, and they're complaining a lot. They're really thinking about like all that they have to do. I have to do this. I have to do my homework. I have to go to school. I have to clean my room. I have to do my chores, and life, is so hard and miserable, and it's just black and white and kind of just dark. And then there's going to be this moment where there's another character. Maybe it's like a magical character who appears and shares with them this secret, this wisdom that's been lost for the ages. And what they share is the power of get. And they share with them that everything they thought was a have to is really a get to. They said, you can change your life from revolving around a 4-letter word to a 3-letter word. Move from have tos to get tos. And then all of a sudden, the second half of the movie would now be in color. And everything that he's done, they would look at their life in a whole new framework, like what they thought before was a have to, they realize is really a get to. And so because they've changed their perspective, right? Like, I get to get an education, I get to go to school, I get to clean my room, like I get to make my bed, I have a bed, right? I get to I get to make friends. But because they've changed their perspective and their attitudes, their life literally shifts and changes. And then it becomes not just about them. They start realizing how they can now share this with others, and they can lift other people up through passing on the power of get and creating a ripple effect of positivity. And I just think that would be amazing. So what a cool thing to think about, my friend. But okay, you said who would play?
Who would play you? Who voices you?
Well, let's say if I was the child.
Oh, you're the child. Okay.
But going through that, I guess if it was a movie about my life, that would be a different thing. But I do love this kind of like idea of like your when your attitude shifts, your whole life changes. When you said who would play me, let's say I was like an adult character in this, I kind of jokingly thought Matthew McConaughey.
Really? That's a great voice. All right.
Yeah. What's funny is because I actually have said that before, like, all right. And I actually had never heard Matthew McConaughey say that. It was actually, believe it or not, it was students that said, oh my gosh, you sound like Matthew McConaughey. I was like, does Matthew McConaughey say that? And it turned out, yes, he does.
Yeah, he does. In some old movie when he was a youngster. Yeah. That's a great voice. I love hearing him speak on his own content, where he kind of, even this book, have you heard of the
Green Light? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Have you heard the book, or did you read it?
Yeah. No, I've read it. I read parts of it. Yeah. And I've heard him speak about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've heard the entire, now it's making me want to listen to it, because he has this inflection, this way he weaves the stories, and he's like, sometimes you're wondering where he's going with it, but it's got just this voice. It's a good voice for you. I think it would hit really well, and it definitely would draw people into the story that is the power of get. I like it. Thank you for playing along.
So good. So good.
It sounded like you might have thought about this before. And if you didn't, that was an incredible job of sharing in the moment.
Well, I'm glad you asked it, because we've been talking about creating a upbeat children's book. And so that's I have been kind of thinking about this idea of like, you switch from like, I guess it's kind of like Wizard of Oz in a way, like the ship, but like black and white is a color, So.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I can't wait to see that cartoon or children's book. Yeah. Thank you very much, Matthew. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your wisdom and sharing it with the rest of us. Look forward to our continued friendship, by the way. But I'm excited to post this because I feel like it's definitely a topic that we haven't talked about directly on the show. Leadership, just showing up for people in that leadership role and leading, guiding, inspiring. So I'm fascinated by it, and I'm glad I finally got to talk about it in depth with someone who actually gets to also practice it as well in your career, in your job, in your side gig, in your main gig, and all your gigs. Thank you so much.
You bet. It's been a true pleasure and honor to spend this time with you, TV. Thank you.
Fantastic. Bye-bye.